we'll hear with their take on the big stories we'll be covering throughout the day, including the election campaign, of course, our new Economics Foundation contributor Annie Quick and political leader writer from the FT, Sebastian Payne. Sebastian, you were listening to that. It does seem a massive omission, doesn't it, from the Labour manifesto to talk about such, as they put it themselves, radical reforms as renationalising things like the railway and the water industry, but not putting any detail about how they're going to pay for it in the manifesto.
No, and they also haven't actually said why renationalising them would be a good thing. It's just given that if we
they're saying bringing bills down. Exactly,
but this is the problem. We've got to make these careful calculations. If you take railways, for example, the British Railways ridership has gone through the roof since privatisation because there's been a lot of investment. They have got better. Sure, things aren't perfect. The ticket prices are high, but if that was in public ownership, they would have to probably drive down ticket prices in the same way they'd have to drive down water prices, and that's a compromise to be made, and they're trying to have it all ways. You heard from Rebecca Long-Bailey there. They want to have lots of profits to go back into the Treasury. They want to reduce water bills, and fundamentally, as you said, Sarah J., and they haven't got an explanation of where the money's going to come from this, it would add a huge sums to the UK's debt pile to bring all these into public ownership, particularly with the railways. She said you're talking 2030. That's 10 years plus it's going to take for this to happen here. And the Conservatives, we're about to hear more from Theresa May and Philip Hammond later this morning on that. They're going to tear this apart because Labour promised way off this will be a fully costed manifesto, have all the numbers in, and they just haven't bothered it on this biggest of all the pledges.
Well, they did earmark 25 billion for public infrastructure. You wonder if it would come out of that. I mean, that wouldn't even scratch the surface, would it?
No, well, this is 25 billion over 10 years. The whole sum's 250 billion they want to spend. This is going to be borrowed, and you can say interest rates are low. Now's not a bad time to borrow money to invest in these things, but they haven't said where this money's going to go, and you'll get bridges that go nowhere, shopping centres that are empty. That there's just not enough detail here. If you want to be big and bold, that's fine. We've got to explain to voters why to trust them, and based on interviews like that, I can't see why any voters would want to trust Labour on the economy.
Annie, the Lib Dems are launching their manifesto today, and there's a Sky Data poll that says they're failing to break through. They're saying they are gaining ground, but the numbers show that 61% of people who voted Lib Dem in the 2015 election aren't planning to do so this time around. Do you think they're struggling to be heard with all the Labour news that's been coming out over the last few weeks, of course, with the leaked manifesto and the Conservatives as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think that may well be the case. It's interesting. I don't think there's massive enthusiasm, really, at the moment for many parties. So what we're seeing, I think, is massive levels of disillusionment. So if you look at the polls, actually, the figure that is very rarely talked about is the number of people who aren't voting at all, which still outstrips the number of people wanting to vote for any party whatsoever. So in many ways, I think we're seeing the effects of recent years in terms of the sort of crisis in politics, people feeling more and more disillusioned. So I think that, you know, we need to look bigger than any individual party at the moment and really think about how we tackle that fundamental issue of sort of distrust in politics.